Hello and welcome to the first episode of Hazardous Thoughts. I'm your host, Chris, otherwise known as CHIPxHAZARD. Welcome, holy cow, holy gear drop week. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. And on this first episode, it's all gear. So if you're a gearhead, buckle in, grab some coffee, tea, whatever floats your boat, and let's just dive right into this sucker because we got so much to go over. All right, first things first, we got to talk about obviously pretty much the one camera that everyone kind of gets every year. It's the iPhone 17. I know some people are like, I thought you said gear. Believe it or not, content creators use this gear quite a bit. And honestly, in my personal opinion, unless you're a videographer or a content creator, there was nothing in this phone for you unless you are those two kinds of people. Like, yes, we get a bigger battery, but we get a bigger battery every year. I will give them props. The colors, I do like the colors. I like how they strayed away from the basic black, white, silver. So you do get that nice pop. I think the copper orangey one is definitely the one to go for if you're going to grab one. But the design just seems funky. I don't know if it's just me, it's just odd looking. And I'm all about odd phones and designs, but this one's just a little off putting. So I would definitely slap a case on this thing ASAP, like most people should, anyways. But the main kind of features that we kind of saw in this phone really are the cameras. Like nothing else really in this phone shines. You get a great video upgrade if you wanted to ever shoot ProRes RAW from your iPhone. So now videographers have a lot more flexibility in that regard. I don't know who's doing that, but you definitely want a separate SSD for that. Obviously, there's tons of drives out now for that stuff. But the front camera, finally, I feel like we've been sitting with the same front camera for almost a decade. And we finally get a nice improvement where it's a nice square, bigger sensor, a wider angle. Like, I don't know why they haven't thought of this beforehand, but we have it now. So if you're a big selfie person, obviously, you now have a much better front-facing camera. And on the back side, now everything's 48 megapixels. And the cool upgrade I will give a little like credit to is the 8 times zoom. Now, I don't know who's using it, but I do think that's kind of a cool little upgrade for your telephoto. Like, I'm pretty sure that it's a digital crop. They said it was a optical like zoom. I don't know how much I believe that because they did say it's only 12 megapixels, which sounds to me like you're cropping on the 48, but I don't have anywhere to prove that, but that's just me. The one phone I don't think anyone asked for was the Air. I don't know who's buying this phone. If you're wanting to get into video and stuff, you're definitely going for like the pros. And if you want to save money, you're not getting the Air. So this phone is just weird to me. I don't know where it fits in the lineup. They're like, oh, well, we ditched the big one and now we have this one. But at that point, when I feel like you should just buy a Pro at that point, I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But to me, I just feel like this iPhone drop is bland. Aside from the color, that's about all they have really going for it, in my personal opinion. I just feel like Apple dropped the ball on this one. There's just not enough innovation, in my opinion, on this phone to pick it up or justify upgrading from a 14, 15, or a 16. Like, I even think if you have a 13 Pro, I would probably hang on to that sucker for at least another year so Apple can really figure out, because I feel like sales might hit them a little hard on this one. But anyways, that's the wrap up on the iPhone 17. I'm pretty sure enough people have heard about that. So let's move on to some real cameras. First up on the list that I have is the Canon C50. Holy cow, where have they been? I know all my Canon diehard lovers have been dreaming about this camera for a hot minute. I have a good friend, Lance, shout out to you, buddy, who's been looking for something just like this, but he's so plugged into the Canon ecosystem, swapping to a FX3 would just probably be a nightmare for him. But now he's got this. I'm pretty sure he's going to pre-order it anyways, but let's go over some quick specs for this thing because I'm fairly shocked. Canon, you did pretty good here. I'm give credit to where credit is due. I'm a Sony user, but hey, let's go through this. First of all, 7K 60 frames a second in RAW full frame open gate. That's a mouthful, but goodness, it is a good one. Holy cow, I was not expecting, first of all, 7K, a little overkill in my opinion, but you'll take whatever you get. Pretty solid readout speeds from what I've heard. There's not a lot of, like, usually anything under like 18 I think is solid, and I think that's kind of right where they're at. So pretty nice sweet spot. I don't think anyone's shooting anything that wild with this camera. You do get C-Log 2 included in this. Thank goodness. I was waiting for the Canon Cripple Hammer, and it did not come swinging through this time on that one because, in my opinion, C-Log 3 is hot trash and garbage. Not a fan of it. But moving on, you get 12-bit raw cinema light. Nice little touch there. 800 and 6400 ISO. Perfect. Just enough. For everyone who's getting into this camera, I feel like if you can't get your shots at 6400 ISO, buy better glass. Like, Canon has a nice line of lenses. They're going to cost you a decent amount for sure, but like your 28 to 70 f2 would probably be a nice pairing with this if you're really needing the low light. They do have now, I believe it's the 24 f1.4 solid lens for any like wide, really low light stuff. Solid lens. I think that's a pretty darn good dual base ISO, if you ask me. You get 32 megapixel photos, so if you do need a photo in a pinch, you get a very solid, respectable amount of megapixels. 24, I think, is plenty for a camera, but having 32, you'll take whatever you can get. I feel the little bit of withdrawal on this camera was where they lacked in IBIS. This camera has no IBIS, but a lot of the Canon lenses do have IS built into them. I believe the 24 to 105 does have IS built into it, which, if you ask me, that is the perfect lens combo for this camera. Like that at 7K 60 raw open gate, 24 to 105 2.8 with IS, hard combo to beat. The weight's really going to take out a lot of those micro jitters, and then you have the IS to really butter that out. Solid setup, if you ask me. The coolest feature that, weirdly enough, I didn't see a lot of people talk about on this camera is while you're recording 4K, you can actually record a separate clip of a 2K vertical crop on the screen as a separate file. Why is nobody talking about that? It's mainly for people who pump out and record a lot of content for like commercials or small businesses and stuff like that. Really, really handy feature, especially if you're shooting in C-Log 2. You have a whole separate clip already cropped, framed up for you in vertical. Like, bravo. Good call. Good call. Now, if you ask me, the only thing I think they missed here a little bit is the price. $3,900. I do feels a little steep. Now, people are going to be like, oh, but, the FX3 is, right around the same price. The FX3 has also been out for a hot minute. So we're kind of due for an update over there. But I think this thing would be insane right at like $3,000 or $3,200. This would be the easiest pickup for any Canon videographer that I know of. I know my buddy Lance is definitely picking this camera up. So I don't know, maybe he'll let me mess around it. We'll see what it's really about, or I'll just shadow him or get some of his clips or something like that. We'll figure it out. We'll definitely see what's going on with this camera. Footage wise, looks solid. Canon's never really had too big of an issue with that. Impressive release, Canon. Bravo. It's about time, but better late than never. We'll take it. Now, I was going to talk about the sneaky link that came in under the radar, but we'll jump to the big guy right now, the Fujifilm GFX Eterna 55. Holy large format. Goodness gracious, this camera is chef's kiss. Obviously, for larger productions and whatnot, at $16,000, you better have a decent budget for this, but rightfully so. We got built-in NDs, hot swappable batteries, large format, open gate, 4x3. It will record in 4K. I don't know how it's doing it, if it's line skipped or whatnot, but you can get 48 frames per second. In that, if you swap to a 4x16, you will get up to 60 frames in large format, which is absurd. That's crazy. This camera is loaded with OI, and you get a nice 5-inch 2000 nit monitor, a PL adapter included. Your base ISOs are 832, which if you're having a camera like this, you're not running gunning. You have lighting setups, so that completely reasonable in my opinion. F-Log 2C, I have not been able to mess with yet, so I don't know how great it is at grading, but from what I've heard, it is chef's kiss. It is amazing to mess with, great colors and stuff, pretty wide gamut. So, we'll take that. The one thing that really confuses me about this camera is the 20 film simulations included. I just don't know who that's servicing. Maybe you're using it as a monitoring tool or something like that, just to maybe convert in camera so you can better see what your image is going to look like later in post. But they have LUTs for stuff like that. So yeah, this is the one part of the equation that I'm just kind of confused at. So I don't know. Maybe they have another logical reasoning for it. I haven't been able to talk to any of the people, so who knows? But hot dang, that large format sensor with all those goodies, like, holy cow. There's a really cool, like, focus knob that you can change to ND or even zoom or iris on the front. There's also one located on the top handle. You also get a top handle with this camera. This camera is pretty stacked out. I mean, for the price, it probably should be, but like, I'm excited to see this one in the field and see what some people create with this thing, because it just looks like a beast. So yeah, that is the GFX Eterna. There's not much, I don't know, I don't feel like there's really that much bad things to say about it. It does have a V-mount plate in the back. So for your gold, like, lock people, there's an adapter plate that's you can easily throw on there. It does not make the camera much bigger, because if you're throwing a hefty V-mount, like, what's a gold mount difference? Probably negligible. It's going to be on some sort of like stabilizer or sticks, you name it. Great camera. Really excited to see that one. And last but definitely not least, this one snuck under the radar and literally blew me away. I am so shocked at this camera. It is a sneaky little link, that's for sure. We're talking about the Nikon ZR, because what the crap? I mean, first of all, Nikon buying red. I knew there was probably going to be something eventually, but this sucker slaps. Holy crap. Let's just go through the first line of specs that I got. 6K, 60 frames a second in 12-bit RAW. Red RAW, might I add. What the actual crap? Dude, I want to get my hands on this camera stat, and I don't think I've ever said that about a Nikon ever in my life. That is just crazy talk. On top of that, this camera is about the same size as like a Sony ZVE1 like in between that and the FX3. Insane form factor, by the way. Like there's like no front grip, but I feel like throw a cage on it, call it a day. You're probably going to want to do something like that with this kind of camera anyways. Holy cow. This thing is just, it gets better from here too. Like we're not done yet. That's just one line of specs. Let's keep going. 32-bit float internal. What? Nikon just came out swinging for the fences because how are you going to tell me you're going to throw in 32-bit float onto any mic that I plug in through the mic jack? A 3.5 millimeter like mic jack will support 32-bit float internal. They do sell separately a Sony like multi-face hot shoe kind of microphone for it that looks flawless. It is like short. It really hugs the camera body and form factor. This, I mean, bravo, Nikon. Like, holy crap. I did not see this thing coming. And for all people who want to like hate, it's got micro HDMI. Who needs it? They slapped a 4-inch 1000 nit P3 color like back monitor, not just a back monitor, a flippy monitor. So you can vlog with this sucker too if you wanted to. I don't know who's doing that. But like, holy cow. You don't need a monitor for this thing. That is that is every run and gun videographer's dream. The less cables anybody has to plug in, the better. So you tell me I can just buy the hot shoe mic, slap that in, and then a decent lens, and I'm good to go. That is a dream, a literal dream. Like, holy cow. Like this on a gimbal, like you're good to go. Maybe even handheld because they slapped IBIS in this sucker. Canon, what happened? Holy cow, they just did not hold anything back. Literally the only thing I can think of for this camera that is missing is the open gate, which if you lived this long without open gate, does it mean that much to you? Probably not, because like you get all the raws, like red raw, we got ProRes raw, we got in raw, like pick your flavor. That's crazy talk. Oh, I didn't even hit you with the best part about this camera. $2,200. I'll say that $2,200. That's dumb. That is insane. That is the biggest middle finger I've ever seen to any other camera company who's putting out a camera this week. That's absurd. Dude, literally you could drop $2,500 and have an insane cinema rig. Like you could easily snag a used lens off of Marketplace or something like that, and you're good to go. Like grab some vintage lenses with an adapter. Oh, what also makes this camera that much crazier, you can use the Megadap adapter on a Nikon body and use all the Sony glass you have or have access to. That's crazy. This camera just came out of nowhere. All of that is autofocus compatible too. This is not a manual focus camera. Like, I'm mind blown. Like, it's like Nikon finally got the hint of being ragged on all the time, and then they just drop a thing like this. Like, all right, sorry, I'll take back all the potato jokes that I've ever given. This thing's insane. Anyways, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to keep this one short and sweet because it's number one and it's a lot of gear and a lot of nerd talk. But like, wow, we got spoiled this week. So, man, if you are in the market for a video camera, you got some pretty darn good options, if you ask me. I'm very curious to see how Sony or Fujifilm, maybe with like a crop sensor, answers to some of these, because oh my goodness, these are some crazy drops. Anyways, God bless. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.